your board, it's time to ride.
This is the first episode of Paddle Talk Radio. My name's Kaliko, and with my co-host, Eric Disk, we break down all things stand-up and stand-up paddle surfing. We are two passionate people that love the sport, and this is where you can come to get your paddleboard fix. Aloha.
You know, I've had my podcasts over the years, podcasts and YouTube videos that seem to all kind of go away. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so I think for a long time, I used to have podcasts where I could learn something, get some info on the latest boards or specs or things that people are excited about. But I just saw a huge decline in the last couple of years. And so it kind of feels like maybe we can fill that gap with some of the knowledge that we have in our backgrounds. So it's a cool first step for us to take and put some content out.
Yeah, I mean, really, realistically, there was only one before this. I mean, like, it was the Progression Project, right?
Yep.
And those guys were great. And I kind of feel like there's a couple other ones I'm going to hit on as well. But it seems like these podcasts or YouTube videos, they're all really good until the people that are involved start developing their own product.
Right.
Then they stopped kind of having independent reviews on things.
Right.
Like I'm pretty sure I've listened to every single one of the Progression Project podcasts at least a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite ones was actually, because I was the only paddleboard one. So
right.
I listen to and watch a lot of the surfing shows. My favorite one, hands down, was the Shred Show.
Yes.
That guy was awesome. And
yes.
He would just do these independent reviews that weren't even reviews. He would just, I don't even know if he even rode the boards.
Yeah.
He would just take the board and fully break down the design, what it would do best, what it might not do good at, and what kind of waves it should be ridden and how it should be ridden.
Right.
You know, that thing fell off because Firewire hired him.
Yeah.
Like, this show was so good.
And as soon as you're an employee, you get censored a little bit. There's things you can't talk about. And so being able to be candid about a board or a design or a company, that's a great earmark of what I think is a good podcast or a good review show or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So the freedom to just talk about it and not be kind of held up.
Or I still watch a lot of is Surfing Show on YouTube.
Right.
What was his name? His last name is Salas. I can't remember his first name.
Right.
Very opinionated on types of boards and everything, but he's actually riding them and giving his input on how the board surfs.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to be able to watch how he's surfing it, hear about what he's talking about, and then kind of make my own kind of opinions on whether the board might work for me or whatever. But
right.
You know, that's how I've learned a lot about hole designs and stuff from Shred Show, and then a little bit with Surfing Show. But yeah, his is very opinionated, and it was really, really good until he started making his own fins. And then it was like with that new Machado Kato. I've talked to a bunch of people that have the board, and they were like, you know, I almost got rid of the board until I got the fins that Rob designed for this board. And they were like, and now it's one of my favorite boards. He did a review on the board. He rode it with the Machado fins.
Yeah.
And then he put his fins in it. It was like,
it
rides so much better with my fins.
Right.
To a certain extent. I mean, he was trying to be not biased, but it definitely came across as biased.
Right.
I just picked up the board. It's awesome. I need to figure out my fin setup.
Yeah.
But I think I just need to
Well, that's the thing, too, is you can only be so specific because literally people will surf every different style of fin and board and combinations, and there's so many ways to like get dialed into a board where it's like it's not going to be the same for you and him, even though maybe similar size and feel, whatever. So it's that's why I hate hearing when it's like, no, this is the best one that you need, because it's like until you really can test it and see it, it's like you can't be. I don't want to hear that it's promo. Like I rather just kind of hear something a little less biased and a little less sales pitchy, rather than just like, here's kind of the idea, here's what works, here's what's good. And so I think I've seen you do that kind of in the stand-up world already, which is good. Where it's not just so like you need this, but this is what's going to work. This is for your size, for your ability. You take in all the different factors, but it's never like a sales pitch. So I appreciate hearing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I try to stay as keep my personal opinions out of things. Just because something doesn't work for me doesn't mean it's not going to work for somebody else. And I think when I'm trying to fit somebody for a board, I go through kind of make these criterias of, well, how tall are you? How much do you weigh? You know, I take into their athleticism. And then one of the key things is like, well, where are you surfing? What wave, what style of wave are you surfing? And then like, what are your goals? Like, do you want to surf like, you know, Zane?
Right.
You know, do you want to surf like Zane Schweitzer? Do you want to surf like Kai Lenny? Or are you just more of like, my personally, like, I want to surf like Rob Machado, but on a stand-up.
Right.
You know, I'm not gouging off the top. I want to just have a real fluid style. I love a fast high line. I mean, like, that's where I'm at now. Just give me a good bottom turn, get to the top, and I just want to fly down the line.
Right.
And then maybe cut back and then do it all over again. And so, you know, I've been switching up my board styles just to get that feeling that I want on the water.
Right. And then I think starting this podcast and then having this content come out is good because we're also like drastically different in style and board size and size as human size.
Yeah. Like, let's get into that.
Good, it's good to know, like,
Kaliko, like, how tall are you and how much do you weigh?
I'm 6'2" and 280. So
okay. So
it's wintertime.
I'm 5'10", and I'm like, I fluctuate between like 155 and 165 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't know what I weigh out with the wetsuit. I mean,
I
ride my boards small, not as small as like a lot of people.
Not like to the knees, sinking below the water, and you have to pop up. And
no, I like my feet kind of neutral, like a little bit out of the water, but I'm at the point where like it's a fine line for me. Like, it floats different if I have a 4-3 wetsuit on versus a 3-2 versus no wetsuit.
Right.
I feel like the boards that you're riding, not quite.
There's not like
as fine.
They're not like, they don't need to be as fine tuned. Like something that is more like I've always compared, like I want to surf like Laird and Dave Kalama, and like those guys are all kind of just longboard adjacent because they did like windsurfing, you know, longboard, the early longboard surfing, and there wasn't too much tricks and things like that. So it was more about like power, speed, and flow, but on a big board. So I still do that on like an 11.0, 10.0, and now I've kind of dialed into like a 9.7 with some more different things that I've kind of learned talking to you and just pulled in shapes, different fins, and so 9.7 is where I'm at, kind of money from all waves, big to small. That's kind of, I can do that. So I liked being around that talk of, hey, what's working for a little guy, but what's also something that I can adapt for myself, whether it was fins or volume or just shape. So I like I think that's cool that people can get that perspective for in between, somewhere in the spectrum between you and me and the board. They'll be able to find what they like and need or want.
Yeah, like, I mean, my go-to size is that 7.5 feet. I've gone, depending on the board, like 7.2 is fun because it's a really easy shuffle to get to the back of the board.
Right.
But I don't want to be falling off the board. I don't want to feel like there's the sniper on the hill taking me out every couple minutes.
Yeah, right.
7.7, 27 has always been kind of my sweet spot.
Right.
I've gone with longer boards, but I've noticed that I have a tougher time getting to the back of the board because when I catch the wave, I'm like a 2 shuffle back, and then I bottom turn.
Yeah, then you're ready.
And a longer board, it's a 3 shuffle.
Right.
Unless I go out there on a longboard style board, but then I'm going out with a different mindset.
Right.
Then I'm walking the board like a longboard. Like, I love a 9.0, a 9.2.
Right.
Even a 9.6.
Yeah.
I've had some fun on some 10.0s, but I like that kind of 9.2 size.
And I think especially here in Southern California and like even just going down to Mexico, the waves allow you to be a little more shred, and you don't need. There's a lot of variables where, like when I go back to Washington, it's like everybody's still like 136 liters is small for them.
Yeah.
Because it's cold. The water's ice cold. They're freezing from the air.
Well, how much does your wetsuit weigh?
Whatever.
You still don't wear a wetsuit.
I don't wear a wetsuit,
crazy.
but they're wearing 5 mil, 6. Some people are wearing 7 mil with hoods or booties in the middle of winter, and so that right there is just adding to it. And then no one's really going super small just because the maneuverability in the wave there is not ideal. It's a thicker, chunkier, kind of slow wave. So everybody's in longboard dimensions, but the mindset like going into it is like, I'm going to make. They're doing top to bottom turns and treating a bigger board like a small board, which I kind of think is like what stand up kind of was built on was
100%
big board, but treated as a small board. And 9.7 was like revolutionary. Like that was a short board 10 years ago.
9.7, yeah. I mean, like, the original was what, 12 foot?
Yeah, 12 and 11 footers. Even
which gave the paddleboarder that stigma of they're sitting outside and catching everything.
Yeah,
even though it's that same person on a longboard is doing the same thing.
Well, yeah, it's in a funny place now too because the longboard guys are like complaining, but it's like the stand-ups are smaller now than longboards, and they're sitting inside, and it's being more proper for the guys like you or like that have a little more experience. So it's that whole battle of the board size and stuff was funny, but it's just like it's not even a thing anymore because the technology's progressed and the people have progressed. They're still stand-up surfing if they're still out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
and then kind of circling back to kind of board design and stuff too, like, a lot of boards are designed and getting tested out in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Hawaii, the waves are amazing, right? I personally don't surf waves like that.
Right.
I find boards that are designed and tested more. I think California waves, Southern California, like we have, so San Diego in particular, we have fun waves. We don't have pitchy, hollow. We need boards that can kind of generate speed because we don't get that power from the wave as much. And I feel like if a board can work here, if a board can generate its own speed, I think it can still work in a powerful wave.
Right.
But a board that can only work in a powerful wave can't work in waves here.
Yeah. And that's a huge discrepancy, just like whatever position I've had with like being a sales rep or being like a team rider and ambassador. It's like if the wave doesn't fit the board, it's a little hard to tell that person like, oh yeah, this is a great board, this and that, if they can't even get on wave.
Oh yeah.
So like once you get on wave, it's amazing. But if they can't paddle around on it and do the whole thing, it's like, well, then you kind of come up short, and it's like puts a bad taste in their mouth, and then so now they're jumping to another design and another shape, and
or they think paddleboarding sucks because
or they're like, I tried it once, and but if you're starting out and you're riding a board that you're undersized for, or maybe it's printed in your size but not technically your size, you're not fitted for that board, and then it gives you a bad experience again.
I wish that manufacturers would stop putting board rider weight capacities on their boards.
Yeah.
That doesn't it doesn't take into account any variable besides this board can maybe float this much weight on it.
Yeah.
Well, how big is that weight? Is it centered in the center? How tall is that weight? How athletic is that weight?
Exactly.
What kind of balance does that weight have?
Yeah.
Because I mean,
the metric
I've
is
seen
skewed for sure.
Guys that are like 5'6", 5'7", 115 pounds, can't stand on a big board.
Yeah.
And then we know somebody that used to be 360 pounds.
Yeah, and he was riding smaller boards.
And he could ride 130 liters.
Yeah.
At 360 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish they would throw that out the window.
Well, then that's too, like, people that are going to put out content and influence a sale. It's like, it has to, that's why I like that. It's like, it's not really a pitch. It's just kind of like, here's my variables. Like, this variable might work for you.
Yeah.
It's really like guidance and just info that's going to help the sport grow, where it's not just like, here, hype, and buy this new board. And then half of them get tossed into Facebook Marketplace. Half of them go on consignment because it wasn't what I wanted.
Or the person that goes, "Oh, you're this tall and you weigh this much. Oh, you should be on this much volume."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't know about that. What I can do is randomly. I liked math growing up. I do algebra when figuring out board volumes for people that are different size than me, because I know how much 90 liters, or how the way that 90 liters of volume in a certain size floats me.
Right.
I just put 160 pounds over 90 equals, what are you?
280.
280
Yeah.
over X.
Yeah.
Let's solve for X.
Yeah.
And then that's how I would figure out, okay, if you want a board to sit in the water the way that my board sits in the water for me,
right?
I solved the equation for X. This is how much volume you're going to need if you want the board to float the way it floats for me.
Right.
Now, not all volume is created equal. When I start going into really small volumes, the tiniest little change in that volume affects how stable it is for me. When I was at I've gotten to a point where I could do 70 liters at one point, like when I was paddleboard surfing a lot.
Right.
Maybe still do it, but I could do 70 liters in like a carbon starboard. But back when they used to call it AST,
right, that
same board in AST, I couldn't stand on, because that little extra float that you would get from a carbon board, that was all it took.
It's that little X factor.
And then also like the length and width, I like to call it the beach ball effect.
Right.
So if you take a certain amount of volume and you stretch it out to a 10-foot board, now you can't, it sinks underwater for you. But then you take that same amount of volume and you compact it into a round ball. Then now all of a sudden you can't push it underwater. So if that volume is more centered underneath you in a smaller package, it is more buoyant than if it's stretched out. So you have to take into account that aspect as well, which again, like the weight ratios that they put on these.
Right. Well, and then
boards,
especially if you're going into a shop or to even some sales reps who are just thinking that metric, and they're just like, yeah, you're a female at 5'6" and you weigh 95 pounds. I'm going to put you, like, it doesn't really work out sometimes. And they don't think about all the different variables of even like how someone has to carry the board to the car. And like, just because someone's a beginner doesn't mean they need a 12.0 big board that you would see as a rental, which some shops would offer as it's a great starter board. Oh yeah, and they're just guiding you down this path of giant ass board that you now have to like sell, get, or like do that whole work down to something that you could have got from the beginning if you would have just got the right start or info. Yeah, and then you mentioned rental boards. Yeah. So that was my biggest thing we rent boards, and it would I had arguments with manufacturers about they always wanted these performance rental boards, and I had to break it down. Like, our rental boards are big, because I took me forever to figure out how to word it. I think it was one of the owners. It might have been the owners of GSI. We're sitting at was it ISA? No, what's the what's that called? They used to do it. I don't know if they still do it or not. Yeah, but it was the industry, the paddleboard industry association. And we're all in this round table discussion, and they're talking about this new rental board. It's great. It's kind of expensive, and it's going to be a good performance rental board. I'm like, well, we don't need performance rental boards. And finally, I figured out the way to say it, and it was a small paddler can paddle a big board, but a big paddler cannot paddle a small board. So stop making small boards. Right. As a rental company, I own a business, and we have an aspect where we rent boards. I don't want to have to figure out which board to put them on. I want to just have one size board. Yeah. I was not able to do that. I've got two sizes. Right. But the ease of that, being able to just have a board that it's going to float anybody from my size to your size. That's going to go out. They're going to have a great day. That could be their first intro to stand up or whatever it is, and they're going to have a good day. So already it's +1 in the oh, stand-up's kind of cool.
Yeah, instant success.
Right.
We don't want people their first time
to crash and burn and fall.
This is really hard.
Yeah.
This isn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
That's my holdback on. I have mixed feelings on like Wavestorm paddleboards at Costco for like, I don't even know how much they are. $200, $300.
Yeah.
Because it's not a great board.
Right.
And it's not super stable. It's like 9.6.
Yeah.
So people go and buy that. And
it's
what's
super quirky. It's
the
weird.
average American is like it's over 200 pounds.
Yeah.
It's
easily.
a little quirky. It's kind of short for a recreational paddleboard
Mm-hmm.
at 9.6. And so maybe they hop on it and then they struggle and they're like, this sport's not for me.
Yeah. That entry level, that super, super entry level board too, I think it just
should
like
be big.
It diminishes like the value of stand up.
It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be a 12-footer.
But it makes it seem so like it's like they'll if they're like, oh, if I ever told somebody like, oh yeah, I paddleboard, like I'm a paddleboarder or whatever that verb is like the Costco, and if you only have a Costco experience and you're just like, oh, a 10.6 board, that's like nothing. So they just think it's just like this blob of foam. The value, it's only worth $200. So then when they see the market as it is, like the stuff that we consider to be a good deals at 700 or 500 or 600, they're like, what the hell? I would never pay that. I can go to Costco and get whatever Wavestorm.
And $500 or $600, like, I mean, where are you getting that nowadays?
Yeah, it's hard to find that now, but when you do have like a place where you can get a good trade in or maybe there is like a deal on a second hand, like that's it makes that great deal for somebody unobtainable because they're just like, they just blow it off. And then Craigslist or secondary users anywhere else, paddleboards are just so low value. So the people that do have nice boards and they're trying to make a little money back to put back into the system of getting a new board or anything like that just totally crushes it. Because you're having to sell a board now for like $100 just to keep up, just to clear out your spring cleaning.
Clear out your closet.
Yeah, clean out the closet. You have to part with something that you paid good money because you invested in a good thing. You got the right deal, and
then you just get all those lowball offers.
You just get all the lowball offers on a board that you're like, dude, this is a great board. The materials doesn't matter because in their head, I just go to Costco and just get one for $150. What are you talking about?
And you totally can. And I tell people that if that's your budget, let's just make sure. Like that's when people come in and try to buy boards.
Yeah.
And that's another question I ask them. What's your budget?
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk to you about a $3,000 Starboard carbon board.
Right.
Saying like this is the end all. Get this or nothing.
Yeah. If you're looking
if their budget is $500, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy your board from me. I get it. But let's make sure that you get the right board,
right?
So that at least you stay in the sport.
Exactly.
And so, like, okay, your budget's this. Let's figure out what the right board is for you. I can't go brand by brand, but let's go dimensions. Let's try to figure out, okay, recreational paddling. Let's say at least 10 foot. 10 to 11 foot for recreational paddleboarding.
Yeah, just getting some glides.
A smaller paddler, I've slowly gotten on board with some of these, like, okay, 9.6, 9.8, you can still recreational paddle.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go as far, or as fast, but then,
just to cruise around here,
get some width.
Yeah,
you don't want to be on 130 liters for recreational paddling.
Yeah,
let's get on like 160, 180.
Yeah,
one of my favorite boards, was always, I don't know. We talk brands or does it matter? Starboard had a board called the Blend. It was 11.2. It was 30 inches wide, and I think it was like 178 liters.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked great I could paddle on it with my dog. My wife loved paddling it. Right. And I've surfed that thing. Some of my longest waves ever were on that board down in Baja, on the spot we used to surf. I think I was on the wave for like almost 2 minutes. Jeez. Because that board length, the rocker profile, I could just connect every section on this little point break. That's essentially went from like a reef break to a point, and then there was
kind of freeformed.
Yeah, the spot. It's called Shipwrecks. Yeah, it's down in Baja. It's northern Baja.
We're not gatekeeping.
No. I mean, if you know this place, then you know this place. But we had names for each of the peaks.
Right.
And so the furthest out peak we called it fence line. And, real original.
Yeah.
It sat outside of the fence line for the campground.
Yeah.
And we caught it there, and I could catch it to all the other peaks. And then I could connect around the actual shipwreck and then take it all the way to the inner cove. And I swear it was probably a 2-minute long ride.
That's a dream.
You didn't even paddle back. We just got out and walked back. But yeah, that board was super fun. And then, if you're going to own one board,
right,
that's a great size.
Yeah.
10 to 11 foot.
Yeah.
Longboard shape. Think longboard style.
Mm-hmm.
And then just walk the board and just have fun.
Yeah, I think there's just so many ways that stand-up paddling can help. It's like it's just bad to see it in kind of like the state it is at this moment.
Yeah, I mean,
because I think it's such a powerful tool for all those things, and there's so much good that stand-up paddling can do that to see it kind of like a shell of itself from what we've experienced, because there's at least 10 years just of being around boards and shapes and seeing all the different stuff. It's weird. It's just weird to see. My first stand-up paddle wave, I would say, was like 2010.
I was thinking like 2009.
Yeah, and so I've been from there. I was either kind of I was 2010 to 11, just on my own buying stuff. But after that, I got in with a brand. I was either working at a place or somewhere that I've been able to see the trade shows and be in the industry side, as well as that early buyer. So that's at least now it's over 10 years.
And I think I started in 2009-ish.
Yeah.
In paddleboarding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been in the paddle sports since the 90s. But yeah, I remember teaching lessons on 12-foot boards and being like, I'm not really a paddleboard surfer. Mm-hmm. Until I think I got on like an 8.6. And I was like, oh, wait a second.
That makes sense.
This is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I'm an old whitewater kayaker. And so moving down to Southern California, there's not many rivers down here. And so I kind of go through some kayaking withdrawals. Mm. And once I got on that 8.6, it kind of bridged that surfing and kayaking kind of feeling.
Because I imagine there's like when you lack the speed and like maybe the little bit of a maneuverability and the danger of kayaking, you can get that on a little bit smaller stand-up on wave, because you're dropping in, you're getting that feeling of like, all right, navigating this water, and then successfully completing a drop or whatever it is. So,
well, I mean, just the paddling aspect.
Yeah.
Just being able to take a paddle stroke off the top is real similar to a lot of like the freestyle kayaking stuff that we used to do. And so it just kind of, it all of a sudden it just clicked. I was like, oh, wait a second. I know how to use this paddle already. Where a lot of surfers going into paddleboarding didn't really know how to use the paddle. And so I came into it being a surfer, not a great surfer.
Yeah.
Good enough. And then being a good kayaker and just kind of using them together. If a paddle's in my hand, my confidence level goes up just because I'm at home.
Maybe you can talk more about like where you started as just like a user, and then what made you even get into working at a brand or get more into sales and retail, and then getting a store. Like, how does that boom influence all that, I guess?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was a kayak manufacturer sales rep for a very large, probably one of the largest kayak manufacturers in the world. I covered kind of Southern California, Arizona, Nevada. And one of my shops, the way I got into paddleboarding, actually, I don't even think I did any paddleboarding yet. He had a lesson scheduled, and his instructor like called in or no-showed or something. And he called me up and he goes, Eric, I need somebody to teach this paddleboard lesson. And I was like, dude, I've never really paddleboarded, but I'm an old kayak instructor, whitewater, sea kayak, everything. And I'm like, I know paddle strokes. Mm-hmm. I know balance. I'm like, all right, I'll give this a shot. So I went down there and hopped on this, I think it was probably a 12-foot board, in maybe 2008 or 2009. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I went out like a half hour beforehand, hopped on the board, paddled around a little bit. And it was like, all right, let's just teach this lesson. And I had this group, probably 5 or 6 people, and I just, took my kayaking background of how to teach a forward stroke, how to teach a sweep stroke, how to teach a reverse sweep stroke.
Yeah.
And just took everybody out in the water and started teaching.
And just adapted it.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And so, my, I guess, fiance at the time, fiance at the time.
Yeah.
So her and I would go, and I'd borrow boards from that shop, and we'd just go paddleboarding. And she liked it better than kayaking.
Yeah.
Which I think is what a big attraction to the sport was.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't pick up a kayak and carry it to the water by herself.
Yeah.
But she could pick up a paddleboard. Even then, the paddleboards were, technically heavy, 28 pounds, 25 to 30 pounds.
Right.
But she can carry it to the water by herself. She had this like, oh, the water's kind of dirty. But kayaking, when you're paddling, the water drips in your lap.
Yeah.
So you tend to get wet. Where paddleboarding, it's like, okay, she's fine getting her feet wet. She can walk out into the water to knee deep, hop on the board, stand up and paddle around Mission Bay.
Yeah.
And not have any issues. Yeah, so it was just easy. And I could, and if she didn't want to carry a board, I could carry 2 paddle boards. Carrying a tandem kayak, they're like 80 pounds.
Yeah, and that's just not, it's not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, so being able to carry 2 boards, so much easier. Put them on top of the car or the truck, way easier than a tandem kayak or 2 one-seater kayaks. This was when I was working for the kayak manufacturer, and they just kept referring to we'd have these sales meetings. And they're like, oh, what's going on with this paddleboarding thing? And these guys in the Midwest, the Northeast, they're just like, oh, it's a trend. It's going to pass. It's not going to affect kayak sales. It's like rollerblading. It's going to come and go. I'm in these sales meetings, me and maybe 1 or 2 other people. I'm like, you guys need to come out to Southern California. This is not going anywhere. I'm like, I just taught a lesson for a shop. Mm-hmm. A 60-year-old woman can carry her paddleboard down to the water without any issues. Hop on the board, go for a paddle, come back in, bring it back out, and put it back on her car.
Yeah, and being virtually dry.
Essentially.
Totally dry. Unless they're falling and whatever, but once you figure it out, it was unheard of to be able to just recreate so easily and still kind of feel like a surfer. And that's where I think windsurfing had a big boom, because it was like surfing, and it was this thing to have on your card and just looks so cool. Yeah. Even if you're in Wisconsin or wherever, but it fizzled out because it just couldn't keep up, and it wasn't quite surfing. But this is such a great tool, a crossover now.
And there's something to be said that you hit on it a couple times there. You said it's like surfing. Mm-hmm. So the marketing aspect behind surfing is so big. Watch commercials. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to be a surfer. Go to Colorado. Before all the river surfing stuff, people are walking around with board shorts on, trying with that surfer look. They're spending money with Quicksilver, Billabong, all these companies to look kind of surferish, and they're snowboarders. So for that person to be able to put what looks just like a big surfboard on top of their car, throw on their sunnies, their board shorts, roll down the road. Yeah. That same thing as being a surfer.
Yeah, it's like Salt Life. It's we're all Salt Life now, because we're all kind of
and then they get on the lake or the river, and with the visual effect of that surfboard and that glide feeling you get from paddling, you feel like you're surfing. Now, it's not on a wave, but there's essence of that same feeling that you're getting. Yeah. That you're getting in Colorado. Yeah. In Nebraska. And that's, in the Midwest. Yep. These areas that have no surf.
Exactly. That's where a huge boom of it was too, because those early outdoor retailers and all that stuff, it was just rows and rows of people paddleboarding, and there was paddleboarding everything, paddleboarding camping, paddleboarding going down river. It just exploded into so many veins of paddleboarding.
Look how many aspects of paddleboarding are there? Yeah, you have surf. Yep. You have recreational. You have whitewater. You have racing. You have just touring. Yeah, the people that do ultra touring, where they're literally going from Mexico to Canada, or just down these long river stretches through wherever, and back. It's almost like backpacking, but just with the stand up. It's just like kayaking. You can't pigeonhole it into one thing. Mm-hmm. Kayaking there's sea kayaking,
Yeah.
There's whitewater kayaking. There's sit on top kayaking on a bay.
Yeah. There's just touring. There's
something called rock garden kayaking,
Yeah.
which is essentially sea kayaking where the waves are breaking over rocks, turning it into rapids. Like there's just so many like little, like you're saying, like little fingers of the sport. Paddleboarding's the same.
Right.
There's so many aspects.
Yeah, and where I think we saw like the glory days where it was like everything was sup focused. So it was like sup racing, sup touring, and then sup surfing were very big. So like Battle of the Paddle, there was just like I said, all the different
Stand Up World Tour.
Yeah, the Stand Up World Tour was still pumping. There was things that were just like it made stand up very the focus, and you kind of had a lot of things to look at. There was more marketing around it. There was more things.
Back then, because it was so big, it was really driving all that innovation.
Right.
Like new styles of paddleboards for surfing. All the different race boards that they would come out with every year. Everybody needed that hot new board because they wanted to be Connor Baxter.
Yeah.
Or Danny Ching. Like it was just like that innovation. You had to be on the cutting edge equipment
right
to compete. And I feel like companies are still coming out with those race boards. The paddleboard surfing aspect of innovation, I think there's been a few new things coming out, but it's not where it used to be.
Right. Like having so many veins, some of them kind of dwindle away. Like I know, maybe it's not as popular as it was, or maybe it gets there, but stand-up surfing, which
that has veins all on its own.
That has 10 veins, but it's just like as the greater thing, like I still see people doing a lot of the whitewater, the river stuff. There's a strong community there. Some of the brands like that started out early branched off from the bigger companies, and they were able to be just sustainable on their own. Now they have full lineups of stand-up boards for the rivers, and all that. Those things are still thriving, and there's a little bit more innovation, and they're trying things out. But with stand-up surfing, it just felt like it hit such a flat line. Especially, I mean, there was COVID, and then there was a boom overall. But it's where I see stand-up surfing now is just like totally on the back burner.
It is, and I think I have theories. I've got a lot of interesting opinions. You know what they say about opinions, though.
Yeah.
So I think foiling took a lot of that innovation and energy and just the dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's expensive to come out with a new board for a manufacturer. Right. And so are you going to come out with a new surf stand-up, or are you going to come out with a new foil board or a new foil?
Right.
And so they're picking and choosing where they're going to put their money.
Yep.
And a lot of companies,
not on stand-up.
It's clearly not on paddleboard surfing.
Yeah.
And then there's the companies that do the race boards too. So they have to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Europe paddleboard racing is still huge. I don't know what it's like in the U.S. I've checked out of the paddleboard racing scene.
Right.
It was just as a shop owner, like I had to invest more money into racing only to probably get the lowest margins, because we wouldn't get the boards early enough.
Mm-hmm.
So then everybody would start buying their boards, and then we'd get the boards, and by the time we would start selling a few boards and we still had stock, the company would release the next year's model. And it's like, don't worry about the last model. This one's the hottest, greatest. It's more stable. It's faster.
Yeah.
It's this. And then we'd have to discount the boards.
Right.
And it was like, I'm done.
Well, there was a boom too of like shops putting on races and putting on events. And it's like, just that was like, you had to get insurance and then the permit and then running the whole thing and then like setting the course and safety. And it's like, even that is not sustainable because there's so many little factors into that. And then it's like, just to hopefully maybe sell the 1 14-footer we have. And, it just, there wasn't really like a good path for that to keep lasting. And then it's like, okay, this race closed. And now I think any vestige of those old races, like, I don't think any of them are really around.
No.
I mean, Dana Point has some. There's some through the Winter Series, but they're also like tied to canoe.
Which you need to do.
Yeah,
I get,
you have to kind of package it together.
Outrigger,
Yeah,
surf ski, kayak.
yeah. There's like tandem
six man.
Yeah.
You know,
the OC2s and then like OC3s, all those different variations of paddling for distance, and then stand up just kind of gets thrown in. There's like normally like a fun one, and then a more serious like 9 or 10 mile, something a little beefier where you do need like we're the 14 and all that stuff.
But they're all just flat water.
All flat water.
All flat water.
Yeah.
I mean, the days of Battle the Paddle and the entertainment aspect.
Yeah. Even the Red Bull. Red Bull tried to do the extreme one in Ocean Beach.
That was, I feel like they went too far with that one.
Yeah, and so...
I mean, what was the swell that day?
15 foot. Like 15
and I don't know if anybody
Beach.
knows Ocean Beach in San Francisco. It's supposed to be it's like the heaviest wave on the West Coast of the U.S.
It's so extremely open to swell that it just basically comes from these huge, deep trenches,
deep water,
right onto the beach, like
to sand.
Yeah.
That's where I learned to surf.
Yeah, it's cold and also wind blowing onshore, and so that race was super gnarly. But there's no in between. It was like it also went very heavy into like team riders and
that one was an invite only.
Yeah,
and I'd be curious to see what the
participation.
No. What the finish rate? Like how many people completed?
Well, I don't even think Connor finished. Like I think he broke a board or somebody. Like you're surfing a 14-foot board on a 15-foot wave. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but that I think they're trying to intrigue more people and make it like, oh, this is a fresh, interesting thing because stand up has had some booms and ups and highs and lows, but surfing was like kind of the thing I thought would keep it going longer. But now it's like the surfing is dying off.
Well, there's the reason I think that's dying off is where's all our footage?
Right.
Who's putting out fun surf videos?
Yeah.
Right now. I mean, Zane used to do a whole bunch. I mean, what's the where in the world is Kiahi Dea Boits?
Yeah.
Like that guy was my favorite paddleboard surfer to watch. I mean, he puts out some foil for surfing video footage right now, but like nobody's putting out any progressive paddleboard surfing videos right now.
Right.
And I think those videos is who the younger generation would watch.
Yeah. It goes a long way.
I mean, having a shop, do you know who, like, you don't get, like, I'm 44. How old are you now?
32.
32. I'm on the younger end of the paddleboard surfer market.
Yep.
Where are all the groms? Like, we're not getting kids paddleboard surfing for a few reasons. One, I think it looks kooky for some, so you're not getting these guys shredding.
Right.
Like, let's get Burnt Road Digger out, like putting out some more footage.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I love seeing like a random Kai Lenny will post a video and he's just like, brought my stand up to Mexico, and then just watching him, it's just like watching like an old friend because it's like that's what I was waiting for like the latest Kalama video, like when he had Imagine or when Kai was with Nash, and there was just so much more content. Like, and even there's sub movies, and those are all dated back to like 15.
Yeah, H2 Indo,
H2 Mexico, Dave, both the Daves,
Danny,
surfing at the mall, like just made it so cool.
I mean, Bainey still puts out some videos.
Yeah,
I like
having those,
even
the website or the magazine, Stand Up the Magazine, where they could go and like kind of branch off. So it was like Stand Up the Magazine presents like a little short film, or there'd be like a little article where you can read about their trip down to Mexico.
Paddle Surf Hawaii put out a video. They did like a Panama. It was like a surf adventure video, and it's just like a surf video.
Yeah, it was
where they go and they're sitting in the like this little hut, waiting for the rain to stop so they can go surf.
Yep.
And they're on 9-foot boards.
Yeah.
Just traveling around, surfing, not super critical waves. They're just surfing fun waves, and it's that video that you watch that you're like, I could go do this.
Yeah.
I could easily go do this.
Yeah. The two that I really remember, and I wish I could find, it was like a Nash video where they brought all their team riders, which are now all like kind of the uncles or the older dudes in stand up, but it was like Kalama, Nash, and Kai was like the young kid, but they went down the coast. They stopped in Washington, Oregon. They'd stop and like paddle next to a waterfall, but then go right out to the surf.
Yeah.
So it was like that aspect of it. Maybe, and that was like I was still just getting out of high school, and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah, almost like a travel video.
Yeah, and like
C4
Waterman had one where they did tanker surfing. This was like in 07, 08, and that was like huge. They went to Galveston. So seeing the aspects of that and being able to like, you don't have to like bring your little 5'6" and struggle to get into a wave and pop up. It was like, oh, this is kind of like way more user friendly.
Yeah, I mean, maybe still bring your 5'6".
Yeah,
I mean, my quiver consists of I've got a 5'6", a 5'8", my 5'8's a fish.
Yeah,
and then I've got my 7'7" stand up, and then I have like a 9'2" longboard.
Yeah, well, I think the problem too is like I really didn't surf anything other than a longboard until I started doing stand up, and when my stand up got better, I've now gotten to surf for like prone surfing more.
Yeah.
So which I think also kind of kills the stand up market is because like maybe if you do start out as a stand up paddler.
Oh, because you couldn't surf for a while. Like I know a lot of people that are injured.
Yeah.
They start paddleboard surfing.
But it's stand up paddleboard surfing, and then you figure out like what you need and what you like, and maybe you get better at like controlling your board and all this stuff, and then you're like, hey, let me try quote unquote like real surfing. So then it's like now you're just going out and you almost the progression, you go backwards a little bit because you're like on this tool that can make you catch so many waves, but you've caught so many waves and figured out what you like. Now you're trying surfing, and now you're going down, and now it's like, you know, I started out on like the 12-foot stand-ups, but like sometimes I try to go out on my surfboard that's like, you know, a 7-foot like performance surfboard.
A big guy surfboard.
A big guy surfboard where I never would have thought like, oh, I'm going to be like trying to dial in this like beach break on my shortboard in Mexico. Like it would never even have thought, because all I wanted to do was like paddle by the waterfall, go catch some waves. Like the journey, the spirit of like that stand-up surfing was so different to see, and then it just is gone. Like
and then also, I mean, the idea of when you're paddleboard surfing and then you switch to a regular surfboard.
Mm-hmm.
If you like, my regular surfing has gotten so much better. You know, I'm like quote unquote trying to throw shortboard turns on my stand-up, which it's in that mindset of like, this is what I think I'm doing, and then this is what I'm actually doing. But just trying to turn a 7-foot board or an 8-foot board, and then going back down to a short, like a 5'8", even a fish. Mm-hmm. That motion, the body, like my torque and everything, the body mechanics that I'm using on my stand-up, you have to overemphasize everything.
Right.
So then you get on your shortboard, and you do that same motion because you've built in that muscle memory.
Right.
But now you're on a 5'8". That board comes around so much faster.
Yeah.
And like, I wasn't surfing that well when I was only surfing.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing both, and I still do both.
Right.
I've been on a surf kick lately, but it's because I've been surfing with a buddy.
Yeah.
He's on a shortboard.
Yeah. And well, that's the thing. It's that even that aspect too is where even your buddies like, hey, they're not. There's no group to go like stand up paddle surf anymore. So it's like you kind of subconsciously you're like, oh, I'm just gonna go take the surfboard out and kind of fit in with the crew, and then
I'm not gonna get mean mugged as much.
Yeah, and there's no stigmas and whatever, and you lose like that initial like stand up.
If I'm by myself, I paddleboard surf.
Yeah.
If I'm going to my usual spot, even with other people, I'm going to paddleboard surf because it's a longer paddle out. Mm-hmm. And if I'm with somebody else that's paddleboard surfing, I'm on a paddleboard. If I get a new surfboard, then I'm going to regular surf because I want to get on my new board.
Right.
If I'm surfing with friends that are shortboarding, I kind of want to be in the same spot in the lineup with them. So I'm going to regular surf because there's, conversations between waves. And if I'm on a paddleboard, then I'm usually sitting a little bit further out than a shortboard.
Right.
And so there's that aspect too. There's the social aspect.
For sure. Yeah, because I mean, there's days before I could paddle out and there'd be 5 stand-up guys and we're sitting at the peak. And at that time, like all 5 of us are stoked. We're talking about, oh, what fin do you got? Like you're trading like some secrets and this and what you got to do. And those are still friends now that were all great paddleboarders, but now they foil or they're just, it's like they're not stand-up surfing anymore. They've all transitioned into something else. And some guys even like to wing foiling and more like the wind sport side, which I never would have thought would take off, but it's just, I guess, even easier to access now. And
I see the draw to the wind aspect because as a surfer, like it sucks when it's windy.
Yeah,
Like
and
if
you want to have
if
something to do.
Yeah, I like to go into Baja.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to do in the afternoon when it's blowing 20 knots, 30 knots.
Right. So that's
you
when it
just sit
is.
around a camp.
Yeah, that's when you consider having that. But I think at the end of the day, it's like you're always just trying to chase surfing.
Yeah.
So whether you're wing surfing or wind or kite surfing or foiling or whatever, it's because you're not getting your fix on waves.
Yeah.
Or there's some injury, but for the most part, it's just everyone's trying to chase like dropping in on a big wave, which with stand up I've been able to do. So it really didn't make me want to deviate too much off the path because like I still wanted to be able to bring a nice board, go to Mexico, go to Hawaii, go to wherever it is, and
travel with one board.
Yeah, and just be able to get a nice good ride, just and like feel that need to catch waves and not have to bring a surfboard or whatever, a foil and a wing and this, and then I'm just Kylanding traveling with 12 things. Yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah,
that's simplicity is good,
and that's what that's why we like stand up. That's why it's here, but it's still I'm still hopeful for the market as a whole. And it kind of sounds like we're being negative or it's so bad.
No,
now, but I think there is some positive stuff. I like seeing Infinity and Dave come out with new. He does kind of push the limits. He's getting shapes, creating fins, paddles. He's doing a lot of things, testing and getting some of the best guys. So and building a community. He sponsors a lot of the races. So having that as one of the OG brands, I was riding the Wide Speed for like a year and a half, and it was like one of my favorite boards.
Yeah, I just picked up that Escape Pod.
Yeah,
that little twin fin. It's I want to play around with fins on it, but I've only had it out once. And like I was talking about earlier, bottom turn to a high line to go down the line really fast.
Mm-hmm.
That board is fast. Probably one of the fastest boards I think I've ever been on. The fins that it come with are gigantic. And I'm not very big, so I want to play with my fins for it. But I took it down to Baja and I was surfing these maybe head high, just peeling lefts, which is front side for me because I'm a goofy footer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a blast. Just high lines for days. That's all I was doing.
Right, and maybe just because of Southern California bias for me, it's like I don't see much. Again, like we don't see much marketing for any other brand really specifically California. Like I'm seeing their photo shoots they do. And they're like at Doheny or like somewhere that it's like, oh, I know that area. And then it's like, oh, if that works for them, like maybe, just size up. Because I was riding the 8.6 Wide Speed and I was on 3 foot days. The board is so fast. Yeah. And then you're asking Dave like, hey, what the heck, man? And he's like, we tested our shit. Like,
yeah. And he tests them
and we
on
do
our
it
waves.
Here. Yeah. And so maybe where the complaint before was like, maybe they're too thin or the only testing was at XYZ. But it's like everything's really brought here. There's local people riding it in California, but then there's also pros where you can see like maybe something to aspire to. So having the balance of community, good shapes, good team riders, and not being so focused on just burn
and lifestyle
too. And like then also with the paddling side, the speed freak aspect, the whole crew, like it becomes like a whole movement. And like
if you go to an event, Infinity shows up.
Yeah, but it's like, but even if it's just people who bought the board, they bought into the community. They have the shirt, the hat, the thing. Like,
they feel like they're part of the team.
They're part of the crew. And like before, a lot of companies had that. Like I would like to see that from other companies because it's like you have a crew, you have a community, you have a board, and then you almost can get back to like battle of the brands. Like you can get back to having where it's not just so focused on one type of thing or one style of riding. It's like more diversity, and it's like such a good time. But
a competition that breeds innovation.
Yes.
Like let's have some more competitions, I think.
Yeah.
Like if there was a way we could bring back the OG Battle of the Paddle, that as far as a spectator sport, that brought people to the beach. And then if you could combine that with a paddleboard surfing competition, I think it would be ideal. I think Santa Cruz is bringing it back.
Yeah.
Their racing was just a slog. It was just a long distance race, not good for spectator.
Right.
But
people want to see the Gladiator Dome. They want like Steamer Lane. If you're looking there and everyone's on the cliff and you see someone on a 14-foot just get plowed, you want the carnage. You want to see Like, and then you even get to see the camaraderie after, because like,
I'm sorry for the person that got plowed.
Yeah.
But come on, it was entertaining for
it's
all of
cool,
us.
and it's like also just it's like I'm a visualization. Like I love seeing that happen and being like, okay, how could I do that but not fall? So then I'm just kind of like, I like dissecting all those things, and like it just makes me feel like a better paddler. Like I'd go to Hood River and watch those races and see how they're downriver or like downwinding, and seeing that, and like where to be, and just being able to just get your eyes on that. It's the same thing as like having an NBA team in your town when you're little. You have something to look forward to and like progress.
Yeah.
Where we just don't have any eyes. So even going back to like, there's no kids. It's like, yeah, there's nothing for them to see, other than unless you're watching Dave on Instagram.
Yeah, and a lot of those kids' parents, like obviously, I've got a 7-year-old. Like, I'm exposing him to it.
Yeah.
There's still the anti-paddleboard out there, and those anti-paddleboard surfers have anti-paddleboard kids.
Right.
So they're not exposing them to it, whether they could be good or not. But circling back to the competition aspect, I don't know what your thoughts are on this. I have a little bit of a pet peeve when I'm seeing like was it ISA?
I think so, yeah.
These are supposed to be the best paddleboard surfers in the world.
Right.
And they're falling off their boards while waiting for waves.
Yeah,
it drives me nuts. I think you should get a 0.1 point deduction every time you fall off your board.
Yeah.
If you can't stand on, obviously the person on the smallest board is probably going to win when they get waves.
Right.
Because the smaller the board, the better you should be able to surf it. But if you can't stand on your board, like there's got to be some sort of,
I think I talked about it before with somebody else, but like there should be like a ratio or something where it's just like if a boxer weighs into a fight, they have to reach a certain class. There has to be something to keep the performance like up.
I remember watching one of the ISA heats. Zane was actually not on the tiniest board.
Yeah.
And he was able to stand on his board, and he was catching more waves.
Yeah.
He was looking actually better on the waves than people that were standing there waiting for waves, and they were sunk almost waist deep.
Yeah. And it gets at that point when you're submerging below the water line, you're just looking like sloppy shortboarding at that point, because even when you're up on wave, your style might not service that size of board anyways, so you're still just trying to like throw the tail out and zigzag, and it looks so chattery, where like the real roots of stand-up paddling, the reason that it even
Speed, power, flow.
They even had a tour was based off of that. And it's like you can't just go so small, that's where I think before COVID that it just kind of hit the fan anyways. And then we've had a boost with recreational people kind of going back to surfing, and then now we're just at another flat line. But I'd like to get maybe your thoughts more on like a positive, like where do you see it going? Is there hope for stand-up surfing?
Oh yeah. It's never going away.
Right.
I think we need to focus on getting the younger crowd into it. Let's not wait till we all get old and have problems popping up to start paddleboard surfing.
Right.
I think just exposure. When I'm out in the lineup, granted, I might not be the best person to be doing this because my boards are kind of smaller, but I'm always offering, hey man, it's a lot more fun than you think. Let's trade boards. Why don't you try my board for a couple waves, and then I'll ride your board for a couple waves.
Right.
And then so you can try paddleboard surfing. I think there just needs to be more exposure into certain spots. But yeah, I think just footage. I think we just need to get more people out there on the boards just doing it.
Just showing what's possible and what. Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be like full on shredding. Like Zane throwing airs. Although that does bring in that younger crowd. Bring back that's like I can't bring it enough, but that style, that speed, power, flow. Like let's just catch waves. Let's ride them clean.
Yeah, get the most out of the wave you can.
And
cutbacks.
Finish it on the closeout.
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
I think
Kiahi, make some videos again.
Yeah.
Yours are, I think, hands down, Kiahi's videos are my favorites.
Yeah.
A little biased.
But I think if guys like that, or like when Sean Pointer was doing like some more retreats and things like that, it's kind of coming back to closer to America. I think it's hard for people to just go to Costa Rica or Tavarua or whatever for a week.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, you got a lot of money. But like some of the more local things where you could go to like a camp down in Baja or Malibu or something like that, the retreats and those things where they're getting footage and people are going there to learn, those are going to kind of help. And then having Sean or some of the pro people, quote unquote pros, being able to directly influence some people and give you some lessons and things like Candace Appleby. Like, it's great to see that she's like the queen of stand-up paddling, basically.
Yeah.
In SUP and surfing, but she's out there just like giving lessons on a weekday, like down at the bay.
Yeah.
So it's cool, like that's there's still that. I think that people pumping back into it and starting bringing in new people, and then letting them progress is going to be huge to kind of carry everybody over into the next bump. I don't know what the next version of stand-up surfing is, or if there's going to be like a kind of a shortboard revolution, or if there's going to be back to a longboard revolution, because
there's their longboard revolution tour.
Yeah,
it has 2 spots.
Yeah,
2 stops. Actually, might only have 1. It's in Indo.
Yeah, those are a lot of guys in Australia that are just like, they won't ride anything or under 9.5 or something.
So they don't consider it a longboard.
Yeah.
So Australia has a full paddleboard surfing series.
Yeah.
That's you have to be on a 10-foot board or longer.
Yeah.
So everybody obviously rides the 10-foot board.
Right.
They changed it for the stand-up revolution in Indonesia. It's in Bali, I think, somewhere. Right. They changed it, I think, to 9.0 because it's tough to travel with a 10-foot board.
Yeah.
So they did like a 10.0 option, and I know Smick is doing a bunch. I think they may have had a hand in starting it.
Mm-hmm.
Starboard got involved with it, I think, this year or the last one. You see Infinities out there.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Kalama's. Have you seen Kalama's new longboard?
No, so
in person?
Yeah,
I saw one the other day.
I haven't seen it in person, and I love Kalama shapes. Like even the Imagine, all those they just work really well. And I was so biased before to other brands, but it's just like, dude, every time I hop on a Kalama, it seems to work, and it's like, yeah.
I know some people that have gotten the new Kalama board, and they're just like, I'm selling all my other boards. So I mean, it's worth checking out for sure. But again, you can't find them in shops.
Yeah.
You just have to blindly order it.
Yeah, I think too. Like we'll go more in another
for
another episode of
go into that more
into like kind of the consumer what's killing, buying and selling and the market side of it. But just like I just think I want to just see more local events. We've already talked more local events, more local, like even just demos and having it be more visible.
Yeah,
maybe some more companies putting some more effort into just having a little demo day at some shops, or just being out in the public will really help.
Yeah.
Just help me feel like as a like an elder statesman in stand up now, just feel like, oh, okay, it's still here.
Yeah.
Just like I know people get stoked when like windsurfing, there's a little bit of a boom, or when like an older sport, or when something that they were really good at, like rugby or basketball, when they just kind of feel like it's still relevant. Oh, okay, yeah, like we're back in it. And you can have Dave come out, and you can have Candace and all these people that started doing it and still be influential and still be progressing in the sport that like got all of them started, really, or more publicly.
Yeah.
So
down in Southern California, we have surf PE in high school.
And Hawaii doesn't even have it.
And I learned that you're allowed to ride a bodyboard.
Yeah. That's a whole other thing you just did.
A bodyboard, you can ride a shortboard, and you can ride a longboard. They do not allow them to ride stand-ups. And so, like, let's maybe break into getting them to allow paddleboards in surf PE, or even just bringing paddleboards to some of these surf PE sessions, and like just having it as an option for people to try it, for kids to try it.
Yeah. I didn't know that they even regulated it like that.
Yeah. And it's because I think there might be some competitions. I mean, I didn't go to school down here.
Yeah.
And so I grew up, I had ski team.
Yeah.
I used to race GS in high school.
Yeah. Well, I don't think even like for
there's competitions between the schools.
Oh.
And there's divisions for bodyboarding, shortboarding, and longboarding.
Right. So then there's no stand-ups in the NSSA or whatever. So, okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
there's got to be some inward somehow there.
Yeah. That would be huge, because if every year there's whatever how many kids taking that PE class, and if that's just their intro to it, then they're like, hey, I had surf PE. It's the same way that you get influenced for like shop class or like home ec back in the day. So you kind of like you decide what you want to do, and especially in those forming years, it's like, hey, yeah, I was really good at stand up in PE. Like I'm gonna get one, and then I'm gonna enter the contest. And
well, then, I mean, even racing.
Yeah,
I mean, you got the cross country kids.
Yeah,
do you throw them on some? I mean, that's cross country.
Yeah,
that's paddleboard racing.
Yeah,
right.
And I've some of the work I've done in Mexico the last year, like more deep south, down in like Colima, they have like a paddleboard school where they're like pumping out kids to go do the ISAs and the worlds and stuff like that.
Other countries are getting more.
Other countries are so
paddleboarding.
Yeah, into especially that racing side. And then I'm starting to see some more surfers out at like Pasquales and some of the places where you're like, oh, you don't normally see a stand up, but it's like weirdly like maybe they're just behind whatever it is. But we just got such a boom, and it's like everyone else is still kind of thriving, but just where we're at, it's like I really just want to see it grow back, and
so more, I hate it's like the catch-22. It's like I want to see more paddleboards in the lineup,
but don't get in my way.
I don't want to bring, but I'm not. It's like, but I'm not going to bring it to my spot.
Yeah,
it's like you can
go to Del Mar, but don't go to Cardiff.
Good etiquette,
right?
Don't paddle past everybody and sit on the peak. I mean, I'm going to get mad at you if you're on a shortboard doing that.
Yeah.
A longboard, take turns.
There you go.
That's part of it.
Well, we're at like about an hour.
So yeah, sorry guys. First podcast. We're just kind of throwing it all at the wall and see what sticks. But
I think as it goes, we'll kind of figure out the cadence and kind of what things to touch on more and be a little more.
Yeah, and bring in your feedback. So if
bring
you
a little more
send
specific.
us a message. We could do, if there's a specific topic you guys want to talk about, we can bring in our expertise and talk about that.
Yeah. And we'll go into a little bit more of like, maybe some days will be a little bit more about technique and like specifically like, how can I get better at XYZ? We have some tips and tricks for that.
Yeah. We can talk about board design.
Yeah. And
we can talk about fins. Like I could talk all day on fins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fins will change everything.
And even another, I mean, there can be so many episodes on just a paddle.
Paddles, yes.
And the progression of paddles and kind of like pros and cons. There's so much info between us two. I think that there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out, but we'll maybe at least once a week have something.
Yeah, I can
to put out.
I can talk a lot about paddles.
Yeah.
After an hour of this, you can tell we can both talk about a lot about everything.
Yeah.
If you've made it this far, please consider subscribing, following along. There will be more content. We'll figure out, like I said, kind of the cadence, the speed at which we want to put this content out. But you can expect one episode a week for now moving forward. And we'll break down everything from how to get started, how to progress, how to get better, and everything in between. So stay tuned.